A good afternoon, Mark. This is
Hey,
Elevate Your Profits. Mark Gassert and Tom Ginn.
glad
We,
to be here.
yes, yes, it's been a while, my friend, but
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, but we'll be right back. We're just going to do our little intro, and we'll be right back with you. And we are back. Boy, I forgot how to do this, Mark. It's been a while since we've
I
been on.
know. Yeah,
A couple,
it's
3 weeks, right? Yeah, that's
absolutely
yeah. So there's been a lot going on my set of things
right.
and yours as well. We'll just
Yes.
share with a little bit everybody what's been going on, and we'll talk about our topic here in a moment. What is What's an influencer?
Oh,
And we'll have some conversation around that. Hopefully, we'll get some people to chime in and make comments. So I'm going to turn on some of these notifications here, tag and share. We just encourage everybody to, as we get into the topic, express yourself. What do you think it is to become an influencer? What are the qualities? What makes an influencer? Those might be some of the questions that we would pose. And Mark and I are just going to have some dialogue. And I'm going to share an experience I had here recently, 2 weeks ago, with probably one of the best influencers definitions I've ever heard. So I'll share that here in a moment. But say, Mark, what has been up with you, my friend?
let's see. I've been heading northbound to a place called Guilford College for the past 2 weekends. And, I've got one more road trip this weekend. So that's a 5 hour ride. Um, so it can be a lot of fun and gives you a lot of time to think. And I go up there to see my son because he plays football there at that institution. And right now, I guess their record's 1-1. Excuse me, but they're getting there. They're trying to get things together. So, but the main thing is I go see him, and he's doing really well. He's doing excellent in his studies, as a matter of fact, and that's why you're there. How they say that it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and he's definitely finishing strong. In fact, he is student teaching now, which I think is really cool. He's going to make a great teacher and an outstanding coach, and I know that his dream is to coach on the collegiate level. So next year, grad assistant at some higher institution. So he's got some people pulling for him, and we'll see what happens. But that's pretty much what's going on.
How exciting. I think that, where he's going, being a coach and a teacher, uh, will probably come into the conversation of what an influencer is.
Yes.
How do you motivate people? How do you get your point across? How do you bring new level of awareness? Those are types of things that, coaching would require a different insight than what we've been taught. And so I'm excited for your son. I know you shared with me some of his bigger dreams. What he's looking to be, a what would you call the title?
A graduate assistant. In other words, he'll more than likely get accepted somewhere. He's been told, depending on where he goes, and I'm not going to mention the names of the schools, but he's got people pulling for him that one of the coaches he has worked under him, and I think that's kind of cool. And in high school, and right now he's at a D1 school, and there is another person that is coaching a pretty predominant school. I won't tell you the name, but it's somewhere here in Georgia. And because of his previous connection in high school, they know these individuals who to connect with. As my dad always used to say, it's not who you know so much as who knows you. So hopefully this will help him. And he's got like a 3.85 right now. So I would hope and think he could get into grad school somewhere. So, and then we'll just take it from there. But yeah.
That I'm excited for you and
Mm,
him. He's being an athlete and
mm,
doing the hard
yeah.
work, and sometimes it always goes your way on the scoreboard, but it's like really who you show up as every day,
Right.
win or lose, right?
Right. I got to tell you that you asked me what's going on this past weekend. Man, Robert Brooker, you went crazy here. He put a Bible down here. We'll get to it, but um, it's pretty wild stuff. It was raining, and you're talking about influencers and being influenced, and you could go there with a negative attitude, or you can. It's all about choice and who you associate with, and it was interesting to hear some of the freshman parents getting all wound up about the game, the score. This game didn't go real well. It was raining, torrential downpour before the start, and thank God they play on turf. But it's just really kind of fun to hear what people have to say about various things. And I kiddingly said this the other day, and the guy just kind of looked at me, and then I'll get off my high horse. But to me, football's about family, and football's about commitment, and football's about celebration. It's about community, and it's not just about the score and or what your son does. Most important of all, it's about what the team's doing out there, and that's kind of hard sometimes for some people to grasp and understand that concept. uh, I always liked Bill Walsh, and I know some people kind of made fun of him, but I thought he did a pretty unique thing in his system. Everybody has a system and a process, but he was more intellectual about football. But one of the things he stressed was that the score will take care of itself if you do the right things and you have the right processes. And it's not just about your son. That's what I tease my wife about. It's about the whole team. So it doesn't matter if a guy's racking up a bunch of yards out there on the ground or he's throwing a bunch. Are you winning the games? Are you coming together as a unit? And it's interesting when you start talking about those things. I know you served, I served, and that's one thing they ingrain into your skull, that you have to function as a unit. And I think sometimes that's lacking out there for what it's worth.
That's sort of a lot of things you're saying are directly related to what we want to talk about tonight of
Hmm.
what is influencing and how we've been influenced. So we could be influenced negatively, right?
Right. Oh,
No,
absolutely. Big
or we could
time.
be,
Absolutely. Yes.
and even the football thing, gee, it's about me and it's about my stats and it's about
Hmm.
how my performance is, and forget about who influenced that thinking, right?
Right.
It could be negative, and it may be short term
Right.
influencing, but is it life learning influencing? So influencing is something it's a learned type of thing, and lots of times we talk about um, influencing. I want to be
Hmm.
an influencer. I'm not an influencer. We hear that. I hear it all the time in business and in my coaching. But in reality, we are all influencers, right, Mark?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I kiddingly said this. Robert Brooker is my Canadian friend. He is a big time influencer. I noticed Ted. Hey, Ted Legal. He's out there as well. But Robert gets into some deep thought. But sometimes it makes you think. Really makes you think. Tom's
Yeah.
got some sound gizmos on the side there. I like it, man.
Man, that's it's good that people are running you down for. I hope it's good news. That's all.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that the last couple of weeks we've done some replays. I've been out of town. You've been traveling,
Hmm.
that type of thing, and I had a great opportunity here 2 weeks ago to do a fly-in by invitation to see a corporate to meet with the executive team. And I really learned what influence is from a different perspective. We'll get into that here in a minute. Is when you see people succeeding at a higher level, it's not about them. It's not about what they know. It's about how can they help you become better. And that we're talking from a business perspective there.
Right.
But we're influencers. We're been influenced by our parents, right? On how we view the world, how we look at the world, how we respond or react, whether we have positive attitudes about certain things. Those are all results of influence and influencers. And I always like to ask the question, who are your influencers in life? Who are some of your influencers, Mark, that have made a big difference in your life?
Well, you mentioned your mother and your father. I would have to say the older I get, my father really was an influencer. Now, there were some not so nice things that I didn't extrapolate, but put that on the shelf. But, I learned quite a few things, and one was how to deal with people. And excuse me for saying this out there, all you politically correct types, how to be a man. And that doesn't mean in your physical stature. He explained that to me a long time ago. It's not how strong you are or how tough you are. Being a man is, and I learned those things, and it was really cool to be around them, and how you interact with people when they are hurting. There's another type of influence, and to be understanding. My dad did a lot of things that I didn't know he did till I've had people come up and tell me. I had no idea, and it was pretty cool when you hear these things. Particularly found it out when he passed at 95. But and then I think there's some sports figures. I mean, to me, Bill Russell was the quintessential influencer in basketball. I know Wilt set the standard and did all the records, but Russell, he played. He just had the ultimate team concept, and I've always been intrigued with guys that excel in a team sport. Um, you know, and what that guy did, recently he passed, but it's just incredible. I don't think anybody will touch that in the NBA. Like 11 championships, he played 13 seasons, two NCAA championships, Olympic gold medal. I mean, that's incredible. Um, that's
You
one
think
guy.
about that. He was an influencer of those teams to make an end result, becoming
Hmm.
champions. There's a lot of teams that probably had more talent,
Right.
but who influenced him so he can influence them in that leadership?
I
A
can
lot of
tell
people
you,
do.
his mother really influenced him, and his father, but his mother made him study and learn. Bill Russell is the basketball player, but William Felton Russell is the man, and that's what's really cool about him. And before it was in vogue, he was a single parent. He raised his daughter, which I thought, a lot of people don't know all these things about what you're talking about. We all go through struggles, and I was really thinking about this when I was driving. Things that happened to me and why it happened and how you deal with it. And all I see is people that are around folks that influence them in a positive way. They just keep moving on, and it's about their process. They don't waver from it. They're consistent with it, and they don't get all enamored about the W's and the L's and the scoreboard, and they just keep doing what they got to do.
Yeah.
And I always admire people like that. They just quietly go about their business. They're not banging the drum, and I'm not saying you shouldn't blow your horn at times or help others, but they just it could be the guy that has his own business, and he just quietly going out there doing it. And I grew up around people like that in my community. It was a small community, but in a roundabout way, Tom, they're heroes because that takes some courage or conviction to have your own business, run it, develop it. You already know that, you know,
And
and
if it wasn't, talking about my influencers, of course, my mom and my father, they
sure,
provided some solid life skills or attitudes and beliefs. And of course, we none of us live in a fully functional
right,
environment in life, But but they gave me some real solid foundation to build on. But many times people don't realize, especially those never played sports, um, the power of playing a sport, whether it be football, basketball, tennis, or whatever. The people that influence you to be your best, to get you through your own mental blocks, your physical blocks, and challenging you, giving you positive attitudes. That's what I love about coaches. They've been the most instrumental people in my growth personally as well. Not only when I played football, but it took that what they taught to the real world, and I didn't recognize it for many many years until life teaches lessons and start reflecting on what who are you grateful for. I think that's something that if we really go to this statement, what are you grateful for today, and it'll always tie back to somebody. I believe if you really take what are you really grateful for today, no matter what's going on, you can identify those influences of people that made a difference in your life. My parents, I could look back on when I struggled or I didn't agree with how they should be raising me, as all kids do. I look back on it now and I go, wow, they were. We always hear that story. We only recognize how smart our parents
Right.
were when we get down the road. But my parents, coaches, it's instilled some tremendous attitudes and beliefs to get me through my own stuff in life.
Right.
And then other personal, I believe in my faith as a great influencer.
Right.
And what that really means to me. And then business leaders, that helped me get through to where I am today. If it wasn't for some of those business leaders,
Right.
I wouldn't be
Absolutely.
here today. And there's a lot of them we can talk about. I don't want to mention any names because I don't want to miss somebody because I've had so many influencers. But, we're all influencing. Even when we go grocery shopping, think about it. and you see the clerk is having a bad day. We can influence him in a positive way or continue feed him the negative, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a little thing sometimes. We're always influencing. And influencing people think it's about convincing your point of view or your way to do something. That's not influence. We get hung up. We got in my opinion, a lot of misdefinitions that influence is based on your knowledge, your skill, all those things. You can't force. You can only convey. You can only convey
Right.
a message. But how a person receives it, I think it's really important, Mark. Myself being a personal development, I'm going to just sort of jump in here a little bit. It's Maslow. The great influence to understand this innate trait that you have, I have, everybody's listening here has. Do you see me? Do you hear me? And are you sincerely caring about me? That's a need for each interview. When the people, the greatest influencers, even Nick Saban, when we did his, we talked about it. When he got to that point, then he became the magnificent coach. It was all about winning in the championships, and he was considered an asshole and all that. His career changed when he recognized those three principles. Recall that?
Yep.
Everything changed. His players changed. They performed at higher levels, and it got away from it having to win to make who you are bigger and better. It had nothing to do with that.
What Tom is referring to is Nick Saban spoke in Atlanta a couple years ago at the National Automobile Dealers Association. He was a keynote, and he talked about that very thing. Looking out for the other guy, caring for the other guy, and what he's, and it all goes back, what you said. Do you see me? Do you care for me? Can you help me? And do you go out of your way to serve? And That's what he was talking about in that speech. And, he really started hammering away at it. And you wouldn't think that he would talk about those things, but he does that with all his players. He sits them down and, they have conversations. So I think that's kind of
we
cool.
got to address Eric Bam here, but thanks for jumping on, Eric. Happy Friday. What week are you in, Eric?
Well, I told him we want pizza too. So,
Okay, wonderful. Great.
Yeah.
Hey, good. Hey, thanks for jumping on. Share this out with your audience. But influencing, we're always influencing. We can make a difference in people's life. You don't have to be a guru someplace. You don't have to be the person who's written books. You don't have to be the one that won the championship. Whatever. And a lot of times that's where people striving to be. I gotta conquer and be the very best in every area I want to influence people on. And that's what we've been taught. But in reality, when I look at the people who influence me, like we're talking, it had nothing to do with that. Not how smart you are, and then you're going to dump your bucket on people. So so I think it really starts with influence to influencer, identifying who's influenced you, and draw those qualities into you so you can demonstrate it out. If it's meeting those internal needs, find that person, and emulate them. Pass that wisdom and knowledge on, I think, is where you become an influencer. Whether it be in our families, we have people that influence our family. It could be your pastor, it could be a marriage counselor, it could be another relative, it could be a friend in their relationship. They're models, that you look up to. They're influencing us. We're either influencing people positive or negative, no matter who we run into. And where is your heart? That's my wife would say, who do you show up as? Who do you show up as, I think, is more important than what you have to say. Because Maslow, I think I put that scrolling thing up here a minute ago.
Right.
Your voice. This is important. This is a Thomism. I took something from my teachings, and I was coaching a client. And she says, I'm really frustrated. She's a very brilliant woman. She has a lot of gifts and talent. And she's frustrated that she can't get her voice to be heard. And through this conversation, it was all about her dumping her knowledge on people. And her knowledge and her wisdom and all things is important. But I shared with her, and it just sort of came to me, and I wrote it down immediately. And it just sort of all came to me is your voice, Mark's voice, Eric's voice, Ted's voice, whoever is listening to this, your influence only becomes stronger and will be heard when you really hear the other person's voice first. Because now you have recognized that basic human need that we all have under Maslow. And guess what happens? Your communication. Now when you speak, your wisdom, your knowledge, what you want to influence, your guidance, now it can be received. Up until that time, we put up blocks. You're not hearing me, not seeing me. You really don't care. And people sense that at not just an intellectual, a cognitive, but we sense it, Mark. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
We know when somebody's being authentic.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you here, but Eric and I said, great comment. He said, we want to fix the world, but we need to start with our own backyard, with the sphere of people we know. That is true. And that's kind of what you're talking about here, but I had to insert that.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. That's spot on, my friend, spot on. And so I want to share something. I went to that fly-in and had an agenda to meet with the CEO. But for the day, we met with the executive team at the Asea headquarters. The entire executive team met with about 15 of us worldwide. And they were just giving, sharing the vision of the company and where they're going. But, I never heard anything about them. Some of these people are brilliant business strategists, some of the best in the world that ran $36 billion corporations. And it was nothing. They recognized the success of the company had nothing to do with them. Yeah, they had wisdom, knowledge, expertise, and all that. But they recognize this, even down to the employees that work in the FDA facility, the staff. It's the people first. They put people before profits. And that's an influential thought that a lot of corporations, a lot of people in business, it's about the profit, irregardless of how it impacts other people.
Right.
Now, business has to make profit. I'm not discounting we can't make profit to stay in business, but it's how you position yourself. And we talk about the traditional things that what makes me influential, my knowledge, my skill, my degrees, the books I've written, my success in athletes, my success in business, my success. But you know what? Some of the greatest influences you can be is talk about your vulnerabilities, talk about your weaknesses, talk about your struggles, talk about your hurts,
Yeah.
because that gives people hope. Say, he went through the same crap that I'm going through. Now my voice has, I'm relating to people that I'm not some sort of Superman. A lot of the people out there and today, they're talking about being the big guru, know everything. But are they really getting down to the level of this connection at a one-on-one? Unfortunately, Mark, not a lot of them are.
Right.
Those that are, they don't talk about themselves in those terms. And we sort of gravitate to that. They're authentic. They're true. That, it's not about you doing a transaction with them or vice versa. Is there to support you. They see you, hear you, and they do care. And so influence to influencer. So Tyler Norton, the CEO of Asea, I'm going to share the slide. I hope people can see it. Let's see if we can do this. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Mark?
that's good. Yeah, it's good. I can see it.
I'm going to move this over here so I can read it a little bit better.
I don't know how big it is, but
Well, influencer comes from the root word influence. Most people, and I learned this from Bob Proctor, is most people do not do enough research on words. Words have great meaning, deeper than what we see on the surface, like gratitude. Yeah, we have gratitude. I'm happy and I'm grateful for my cup of coffee and I'm grateful for, but really, how deep can you go? What does gratitude really mean at a root cost? So he did this presentation, and I know I'm not going to do as great a service that he did to it. And he went to the root of influence. It's a noun, late 14th century. They didn't have the knowledge that we have to explain how things fall into order with science and all this stuff. In astrological term, streaming ethereal power from the stars when in certain positions, acting upon character or destiny of man. Let's think about that for a second. That's a mouthful. Streaming ethereal power from the stars when it is certain positions acting upon character of destiny of man. What he was saying here is there is no way that we could have conveyed a message about the cell phone or any technology to influence people until we are connected by law, the human spirit, basically. And it goes on. It's the emanation from the stars that acts upon one's character and destiny. We can keep extrapolating those words and dive deeper, but those are spiritual laws when you really get down to it. They use the word stars. That was a concept beyond their ability to describe it. And so if we can understand that, it's the essence of who we are on a spiritual level, who we show up as, more than just I'm a football player, or I'm a great business leader, coach, author, or whatever. but who you were sharing up. You become an influencer. You, the person, when you start streaming the ethereal power that comes from the stars when in proper alignment, that acts upon the character and destiny of mankind, men and women. So if we take a look at those words, it's pretty deep, right, Mark? If you really think about it, those are pretty deep.
Yeah, it is.
You have to stop. And Tyler Norton really got deeper in this, and he explained it, used some analogies and some stories in and around this. But we become an influencer when we understand this internal power that's in our universe, the stars, the laws of our thinking, our spiritual laws. All these things form us. And when we get in alignment with those, then we can be an influence to our fellow man and woman. Only then. And that's the principle that he works off of in understand how to become a better influencer for his family, to his community, to his business leaders, to his associates like myself. And he went off into that. So I'd encourage people to really start looking when you say, I want to become an influencer. What are the root words? What does that mean? It really has nothing to do with ego. It has nothing to do with ego. And ego's good. Ego has a bad side as well, right? Ego's either creative or destructive. It's only you do one or two things.
Right.
So, Mark, you want to make a comment? What I shared with you is pretty deep. Of course, I don't read that well, so I probably messed it up.
It's I don't know, what you're talking about. I think that you hit on one word there, that ego thing, that to me is an influencer is beyond that. And to me, an influencer is a person that serves, and it's not about them, it's about you. And it goes back to what you were talking about. Can I trust you? Can you help me? Do you care for me? And every day, that's how they show up. And that's why there are people you admire. What you were talking about when you went there to Asea headquarters, those are probably the brainiacs in business. And yet they're saying, how can I help you? What can we do for you? What do we need to do more of that we're not doing to get the message out? And that's pretty impressive when you have people of that stature asking someone like me or you or anyone else that hasn't even come close to what they're doing. And there are other people out there that I could throw out there. Is we kid about this, but like everybody has an ego, but I'd have to say Jeffrey Gitomer's the type of guy. He's a server, and he's a Northeasterner, but he's cool. He's got that New York mindset, Philly type guy. And then like Ben Gay, there's another guy.
Yeah, I was going to mention Ben.
And then, he learned from guess who, Napoleon Hill. I guess he would be considered one of the last disciples thereof. But, and Ben shared his vulnerability with you and me on a couple of our podcasts. I don't want to get into all that, but he proved to all of us that he's human as well. And all these people, and same with Jeffrey Gitomer, they all go through struggles. And, I think it's neat when they do that and say, or Ken Walls, who helped us do what we're doing here. We're not the best at it by any means. I don't profess to be. I'm still learning this live streaming thing and how to communicate through this means. I use it, within business if I can't see people face to face. But, they all went through, the fire. And I don't think you can escape that. And that's one of the things you brought up about influencers. They do have another side to their coin, and it's not always pretty. And when they share their story, you're like, holy moly, I cannot believe what I'm hearing from this individual. They're human beings. If you cut them, they bleed. And I think sometimes, not all, but some, when you're younger, you put people up on that pedestal. You don't need to do that. They're human, and if you go up and approach people, particularly I find the higher up the food chain, man, they're easier to talk to. They appreciate it. That you come up and say, "Hey, I really got a lot out of your talk," or "Thank you for sharing that concept with me," or just taking time, because they don't have to do it.
No.
Like
And that,
Ramey,
like you said, they have
you
that
went to
servant heart.
Ramey's, yeah, you went to Ramey's mastermind meeting. You went to that and you met all those people, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
You know,
And, and you could go to any event and you can really sense who those people are that are not self-centered, but they want to serve. You sense it, you feel it, just what they say, how they open conversations. It's about you more than some people say, well, you got to learn about, ask the questions. The answers are in the questions. You ask the person these questions, you'll get to know them. It shows that no, there's a different, people could read that too. It's like a canned script, right? Here
right,
come these
right,
questions, right? But it's how they ask them and when they ask them and their attentiveness, their hearing, they responding back to what you say. They're not then moving to a dialogue of dumping a bucket of some information on you to influence you to make a
right.
decision. And unfortunately, that has been old school. I mean, hey, I was, brought up, been in business 83. But
Sure,
ultimately, those that were succeeding at the highest levels were implementing these principles, just didn't know how to articulate it the way we do today. And I'm still hungry to be better for myself so I can be better service for my family, my wife, my community, to my business associates. If I can't get better, how can I help the world become better in my own view? And so an influencer. Let's
right.
take a look. What influences you? Who influences you, right? I think that's a good question. I'm going to, if you don't mind, Mark, I'm going to
No, go
reference
ahead. Go ahead.
my wife's
Oh
book.
yeah, I was just going to say that Kathy wrote a really cool book. Yeah, it's that'll make you think.
It's deep. It The principles she's written in this book are in direct alignment to what I was sharing with Tyler Norton said and some other people. I always like to share this. She has built her business her entire career without any marketing, without any selling. People say, how do you do that? It's her relationship when she talks to somebody. She's been in the massage industry for nearly 30 years. And when she's done engaging that person at her professional level, whether it be in massage, whether it be in grief counseling, or her Hakomi psychotherapy practice, the thing she does, she listens. And when a person is heard, seen, and recognized, and you didn't try to fix it, like I said, your voice becomes stronger when you hear the other person. And she's written an entire book. You could take this, whether you're in real estate sales or any business, these 7 principles she's wrote about is directly how to be an influential person, the soul of ethical service. Who do we show up as? Naturally. That is the key. And she's written a book on those 7 principles.
Right.
It's amazing. I want to promote her book, but more importantly, the principles that she has encapsulated in this book will serve anybody out there to become better.
Right.
So they become a better influencer in any career, any area of work. So I'm going to put, if you don't mind, Mark, I'm going to do a little commercial here for her.
Oh, that's fine. Absolutely, you should.
Yeah, because it is that significant. She's been the greatest influencer in my life, besides some of the other people I've had. And the principle she's
Tom, before you get into that, and excuse me for those that aren't Christian, I'll preface that, but you said about influencer, he walked the face of this earth some 2,000 odd years ago. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And there was a guy that really listened to people. So that's all I'm going to say. But think about an influencer. That's the ultimate.
He always talked about, I forget what scripture it was, but he says, you can do greater things than I.
Mm-hmm.
He really planted the thing is, I don't have all the answers. But you can do greater things than I. And I think that gives people hope, encouragement.
Right.
I think the scriptures is probably one of the best human development books ever written if you study it from that point of view.
Sure.
Or the best sales book.
Well, that's where everything evolved from when you break it down. All these books that are out there. I mean, you could probably take it somewhere. You'll find it in that book. We call it the Bible, but it's interesting.
Yeah, everything operates by law. We have the physical laws, right? We know it. We drop the pin. Always works the same way under the same circumstances. We have physical laws. We have chemistry laws. They always perform exactly the same thing with the same ingredients under the same. They will always give the same result. That's a law, non-man-made. That's a key. That's a law. Whether it be physical, whether it be spiritual, it's non-man-made. And I think that's what Tyler was talking about in his talk. Streaming ethereal power that comes from the stars. You can call the stars your eternal,
your
source. When they're in proper alignments, this is where people get stuck in life. They think something's out of alignment. Something's out of alignment in the natural order of law that acts upon the character. So when you're an influence, you're acting upon your character. Who are you showing up? And you're giving them hope, like Christ said. You can do greater things. That you're building something there, the destiny of mankind. Christ didn't just say, "Hey, it's all me." Just I'm your weapon. I'm your sword. I'm your right. Hey,
right.
You can heal more people than I. You can do greater things than I. And once we get to that faith with certainty, and we incorporate that, I think it's powerful. So what he was saying is scriptural in basis. That's how I've interpreted it. Here we're sort of getting off into a dialogue, but when you think about it, words have power and we study them.
Right.
So anyway, Kathy's book, The Soul of Ethical Service, it's how to become a better influencer. Who do you show up as in interaction with other human beings? When you show up authentically, vulnerably, I don't know if I said that correctly, you then earn trust and confidentiality, and then you can serve.
Right.
And again, it goes back that you're hearing their voice. Now your voice can be heard or maybe even influenced to help that person. Other than that, no matter how much wisdom, if you haven't heard them, they're not going to receive your word. Does that make sense, Mark?
Oh, absolutely.
We have a lot of people chiming in here.
Well, Robert is just like, he's on a roll. I don't even know where to start, but he's written some things that are, he said here, a big thing, it's new for me to say, and it still chafes a bit, but I'm grateful for that second marriage, using the term loosely in this case, and the poor behavior towards me behind the scenes. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but then he says, I still remember the time Ken Walls called me and said to me, you know a lot of people. This is because of Ken's show. He was talking about being an influencer there. There have been times my tongue becomes sharp in the comments. This happens because of those times I'm in pain, depression, or raging. He's opening himself up, which is, we kid about Robert, but Robert is probably one of the most authentic dudes out there in this live streaming. To me, I don't know if I'd be saying all that stuff, but Robert, God bless you, man. That's cool. He talks about his stepfather, who was a skilled carpenter. He built out the inside of his sailboat, a 30-foot ocean-going hull. You know, that's amazing. It's out of teak. It smelled so good inside. You know, he's sharing some good things, bad things. So I'm sorry I digressed, but
No, you're right on, Mark. It's that, that is influence.
right.
He's opening up. We can't see it. Unfortunately, we would love to be able to read these
Oh yeah,
hopefully
I
through.
know, I know,
Don't ask
but
me to read my dyslexia. I think he mentioned something about my
he
dyslexia.
does. He does. He does. He mentioned that too. I just blew by it here. Robert, I'm so sorry. Because of time and everything, but some of your comments are really, um, really cool. I mean, they make you think. Yeah, I'm working on igniting a burning desire to become more strategic in planning my life, and that's cool. More strategic in planning my life, including laying out a process that adapted from those who moved forward on the path we share, adapted to work best for me, and write down and share the journey. That's neat. Good for you. Sounds like you're going to journal here, or you're journaling. And now we need to get to Kathy's book. I'm sorry.
Let me put that up. Let me see if I can find that picture of her book. There it is.
Yes.
7 qualities to embrace in your professional healing relationship. She uses that terminology because of the field she's in the holistic health,
Right.
body work, body psychotherapy, those type of things, grief work. But you can apply those same principles to the car salesman, to the insurance guy, the guy in real estate, guy in network marketing. You see the most successful people, and you really study how they got there.
Right.
They were servers. They were influenced by example. They didn't have what's it all was told to me a long time ago. Your children don't do what you say; they do what they see.
Right.
What's our behavior? Is our behavior what the words that come out of our mouth, the looks on our face, our body language? Uh, who do we show up all the time?
We should
Whether
ask Eric Bam that, because he's got a younger daughter. So yeah, that's tough. And I tell you what, and any of you that have youth, it's hard enough. Even though my guys are now in their 20s, I don't know how you do it, because it's rough out there to raise children, to raise young women, to raise young men. God bless you for doing it, because we need good ones out there.
yeah,
And you talk about influence. These kids are influenced by a lot of different things on the darker side of the sphere, so to speak, because there is so
like
much good.
who we show up at on a consistent basis. Tom Ginn has bad days. I have disappointments. I have challenges like anybody else. It's my attitude, my
Right.
gratitude that I have gives me a different perspective. People say, Tom, how do you stay so positive? I work at it. I walk it. It
Right.
isn't just because we're doing a show here trying to be upbeat and put energy into the conversation. This is me. Now, was I always this way? No.
I don't
Was
think
I
any of us
7 years ago or
were.
30 years ago? I'm going, thank
No.
God I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who do you show up? Am I going to influence everybody in every area of life? No, absolutely not. I think it's where a lot of people get hung up on. I got to influence everybody, whether it be their political, their religious, their business strategy, whatever. They want to be the influencer. That's ego. No, you're going to influence those that people will resonate and trust because you heard them, you saw them, and you demonstrated that you cared. You listened you repeated back to them what you recognized their pain or their challenge, and it wasn't transactional.
Right.
Guess what? When you're talking about elevate your profits, when you come from that place, we hear it a lot of time from those that are excelling. They just say, how do I get on your path? How do we move forward? They will buy, they will join you. And actually in business, Mark, I've had this philosophy for years. It took me a long time to get there, but I only wanted to work with people that were in some sort of alignment in certain areas of my life to do business with. And when I had those clients, they're the most profitable, the easiest to work with when we had difficulties in customer service. But if it was just about the transaction and feature benefit and all that, I've learned to walk away from opportunities
Right.
because it's not worth the aggravation. I'm not influencing. I'm trying. See, here's the problem. Influencers convey information. They don't have to convince. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what else would you say about an influence? Being an influencer, what'd you come away with tonight?
I don't think, we kiddingly say this where I work. No one ever listened themselves out of a sale. And I just think that that is so critical to listen to people. And that's, and you touched on it, regardless of religious, political, just listen to that individual and treat them with dignity and respect, you know, and you don't have to get into a shouting match, you know. But I think listening is, as a society, we don't do enough of that. Some people listen to talk about themselves, and I am beating myself up all the time about, am I really listening to what this person's telling me? Am I getting it? You know,
I'm just going to cover something in Kathy's book that's relative here to just give you an idea of her wisdom and what she is. So it always comes back to asking yourself, look within. What seeds are you planting? What are the gifts you offer this earth? Does the practice of deep rooting foster the person you want to be for yourself, your client, could be your family, and the world? The following words Gandhi continued to touch her heart. Our greatest ability is not to change the world, but to change ourselves. So that's a little bit of insight of her writing. And it's being an influencer to make a difference in the world. We've
right,
got to look within and know thyself. Who are we really? What is our gift? What do we really want to impact? And then we know that and we show up with that, and the world changes around us. It elevates your profits. Now, profits isn't always what goes in the bank account, right? What's the value you give other people? What's
right,
your quality of life? Can you go to sleep at night saying, did I serve the best that I could?
right.
Those are my thoughts. So,
That was good.
yeah.
That was real good. And just so everybody knows that, I'll say it. Tom may hopefully he'll laugh. He definitely married up when he married Kathy. So I think most of us guys did. He must have really lied to get Kathy to break down and marry. I'm teasing. No, she's a
Well,
good
Mark, there's some truth to the. Wait a minute. I married up, but I listened. I didn't realize what this is a true story. I'm going to share this with you. In
lady.
our first conversation, what do you do? Where do you grow up? Blah, blah, blah. And, the trivia stuff. And she mentioned she loved playing basketball. Now, she was in the military. People would never recognize she was in the Army because she's a small, petite woman.
Yes.
And she's got this soft demeanor, you shot guns and you blew up things, whatever. But I was listening to her. So, I was very intrigued with her. for many reasons, like a man does, right? But she was talking about her tenacity. She loved playing basketball, competitor, blah blah blah. So my very first, we had it was a workshop. I met her as a real estate licensing course for a couple days. So at lunch or after the workshop, we'd go have a beer and just talk. Well, she was talking about the basketball. So my very first ask out, I was going to cook her dinner. I says, "There's no sense that's going. I love cooking, but I'll share with you. I'll cook something very special for you." I showed up at her place. And not bringing flowers or candy or any of that. I had a bag of groceries, of course. I was going to make the dinner. But I showed up with a basketball. And I gave her the basketball. That's my gift.
She probably liked that.
Those little things that I won her over. Well, I could have done the razzle dazzle bouquet of flowers and the big box of cookies and candy. But she goes, "Wow, he heard me. He touched something in me that of interest." That's a true story.
No, that's true. That kind of reminds me of me. I guess I was consistent because I called every Wednesday, like clockwork. And how's your week going? Great. What are you doing this weekend? That type of thing. And because that's how Gina wanted it, so I just picked up on that. I'm like, okay, cool.
Robert made this that the little things, yes, they matter so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Robert. Great comment.
The little things will get you too if you don't pay attention to them. Absolutely correct. Yeah.
So, well, Mark, I tell you what,
man, an hour goes by quick. It's already what? It's just about 7 p.m. So it's about time to crank it down. Do want to say thank you to Robert and Ted and all the other people out there listening. Those that didn't comment, that's okay. Or if you catch it on the replay, that's okay.
So we'll do some more of these just candid talks on a topic or whatever. I'm working on some guests to come in. I know you have as well, Mark.
Yes.
Now that the summer's over.
Oh yeah.
Family got their kids back in school. Maybe things can settle down a little bit.
Hooray.
But
football's in session, and we won't get into all that. Even though the Falcons lost by 1.
Oh, did I didn't pay any
attention. There's a place in New Orleans. They have a football team called the Saints. That's a big rivalry here, and they beat them by 1. So it was a toughie. And then Alabama came back and won the game by 1 in Texas. That's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah, I love college football. I would rather watch college football than the pros, to be honest with you. I used to be the big pro football guy, season tickets with the Oakland Raiders. And
really?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we were some of the first season ticket holders when they went from when they became when they merged with the
AFL
and NFL. I got some pretty good stories there. Met Ken Stablers and Freddie Bolitnikoff and all these guys, Jim Otto. They would all party down at the flanker, and they would just come in. The old days, they would just come in just like you and I, say, "Hey, Mark, what's up, buddy? Hey, get this guy a beer."
Mm-hmm.
They slap you on the back, sit down with you, and they're all bloodied up and bruised up from the game, so they sit down with you. Nowadays, they were influencers. That was a cool experience. But give me college football any day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, my friend, anything you want to close with?
No, I'm going to let you close it out. But, you talked about where you were at the Asea headquarters. And, I think that's really cool. And, I hear they have some good products. That's all I'm going to say. They do some pretty cool stuff there at that place.
Yeah, serious. On a serious note, it's the greatest scientific breakthrough of the 21st century medical life. And when people really understand this, people will be seeking it out. It's not another deal. It's not a vitamin. I had some, got some big picture what's happening in this
Right.
science, worldwide science community. What's happening with Asea. It's blowing my mind, Mark. And anybody think it's just a saline or salt water, you can be a skeptic. Just don't be cynical.
I do have to reach for this because I told you I was in a car, and sitting is not the best thing for your back. So that's why I'm standing right now. But thanks to this bad boy here, it's called Renew 28 Asea. You apply it liberally on the area, and it does revitalize and make you feel good. And
at a cellular level, it's not just a mask.
Yeah, it's just not like putting on atomic bomb or other different products. It really gets in there, and the next thing you know, you forget about it. Or when I umpire, definitely, if I'm doing multiple games, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Your knees, your joints.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kathy
would say you got to promote you got to have a commercial in there. So we did our commercials. So.
Yeah. I was being intentional in a roundabout way, but all I was going to say is I'm sure Kathy uses this, correct, Tom?
She uses it for herself. She does the liquid. She uses the entire performance thing for the mental cognitive focus and energy. If we're all getting tired, we all get sore, we all have ailments, you should look at Asea as an opportunity to give you a solution to any health concerns you have. I just wanted to put this up here because we're talking about it, that the Federal Trade Commissions, we got to stay in compliance.
Yes, we do.
We're not, this is not here to intend, diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases. Now we're in compliance, so you can interpret, read between the lines any way that you wish. We can give you all the research you want to get your questions answered at any very specific area of health. We can do that. So, so that's where we're at, Mark. Good seeing you, man. 2.5 weeks.
I know. I think it's been two and a half weeks or something. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because we had the week before, and then Labor Day weekend kicked in, and Yeah,
you're traveling. Kathy was out. She was in Cleveland.
I was.
I was in Salt Lake City, and here we are 2 weeks later. So, well, my friend, I had a blast tonight. I hope.
Well, thank you. So did I. This Wednesday, I want to try to hook myself up with some of that liquid gold you offer. Okay, cool, Robert. Well, connect with us. Talk to us about it, and we can help you.
Yeah, you may. Mark, you can reach out to him. You got his email.
Sure.
Just send him some,
Sure. Absolutely. No, be more than happy to talk to you about it, Robert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your inquiry. God bless you, my friend. And we will sign out.